Go ahead.
Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody to the Washington Elementary School District Special and Executive Board meeting for Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, and it is 1:01. Ms. Tucker, do we have an agenda that I can follow, or?
Yes, I'm trying to pull it up now. 1 second, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Tucker, is it okay if I proceed? Okay. Ms. Tucker, would you be kind enough to do a roll call, please?
Yes, President Adams. Governing Board members present. Governing Board President, Mr. Bill Adams. Governing Board Vice President, Ms. Nikki Whaley. Governing Board members, Ms. Jenny Abbott Bayardi and Ms. Lindsay Peterson.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the adoption of the August 4th, 2021 special and executive session meeting agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Whaley. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So that brings us down to public participation. Ms. Tucker, do we have any public participation?
Yes, sir. We did receive several public participations in which I will read on behalf of our community.
Thank you. Ma'am, please make sure that we keep it within the 3-minute mark, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So the first one that I received is from Sarah Bennett. She is an employee from Ocotillo Elementary. President Adams, members of the governing board, I am writing you today to ask that you reinstate a district-wide mask mandate for all students and staff. The latest CDC guidelines say that everyone, regardless of vaccination status, should wear masks indoors in high transmission areas. Not only does our COVID-19 transmission data from last year prove that schools are high transmission areas, we are also seeing schools across the state shutting down in early days of this school year due to outbreaks. Additionally, most of our students are too young to receive the vaccine at this time. Phoenix Union High School District and Phoenix Elementary School District have already courageously defied the newly passed law prohibiting districts from imposing mask mandates for the greater good of their communities. WSD can also set an example by adding its name to the list of school districts who put safety first for their students, staff, and communities. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Alejandro Macheca. He's writing in from the Washington Elementary School District. School. Dear Governing Board and Superintendent, I'm writing to voice my support of masks being required within the Washington Elementary School District community. Last year, when in-person instruction resumed, the board found it in the best interest of all to require face masks for all within WSD at the time when the spread of COVID was diminishing in the community. The health and well-being of the WSD community was stated as the reason for that decision. It would be reckless and dangerous for the board not to take the same position when the spread of COVID is higher than it was then, and unfortunately on the rise. I feel this is especially important given that the majority of the students in the district are not yet age eligible for the vaccine. If the district truly values the health, safety, and welfare of the students, parents, staff, and community, then requiring masks should not be a difficult decision given the effectiveness in lowering the spread of COVID. This is an opportunity for the district to live out its stated value of leading by example and do what is sound by requiring face masks for everyone. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Jessica Lewis, a tumbleweed parent and an employee at Mountain View. I am first a parent in the district and second a staff member. I would like to say a few things in regards to today's meeting. Please do not mandate masks against the new law that is passed in Arizona. As a parent, I do not want my child to have to wear a mask all day. First of all, masks are useless and does not prevent spread. As we saw in the fall and the winter when we all had to wear masks, yet the numbers reported were still high. Second, my son has asthma and cannot breathe with mask all day. The online learning was not for him and he is failing his classes. He was back to A's and B's within 2 weeks of being back in person. Second, as a staff member, I am very opposed to wearing a mask. Have you or have any of you stood behind a hot oven all day with a mask? It's very hot and causes you to sweat, which then results in getting sores and your nose and face. Please think of all the people affected. We should have a choice to wear or not to wear a mask. Those not comfortable or at risk can wear a mask, and those not can choose not to. You don't take the choice from one group of people only to accommodate the other group. Our district is already down a lot of enrollment and very understaffed. You forcing these masks will cause even less enrollment and staff leaving, or less people applying, which ultimately will result in less funding next year and result in people losing their job next year. It's a domino effect. Will WSD lose funding if it goes against state law? Again, more jobs cut and less resources for our students. I hope you take it into heart what parents and staff have to say about this. The majority of us do not want the mask mandate. If you do not keep in mind of what the parents are saying you are not doing the job you were voted in to do. Please keep your own desires and emotions aside and stop pushing your own agenda on parents and staff. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Jennifer Farrell, a Lookout Mountain parent. First of all, I want to thank you so much for serving our kids and our community. I wanted to reach out to you prior to your special and executive governing board meeting today. I understand that several school districts in Maricopa have voted to mandate masks be worn by non-vaccinated kids at school. It is my strong opinion that WSD continue their current reopening plan, which is to mandate masks optional but strongly encouraged. This gives each family the option to choose what is best for their family. WESD believes in choice, and this board should support that option. Many of the schools around the valley have returned back with the optional mask rule with success: Gilbert, Paradise Valley, Chandler, Peoria, etc. I'm confident that WSD and their COVID-19 protocols will be just as successful. I really hope that you take the time to into consideration during your special and executive board meeting today. Thank you for the time, and I appreciate all the hard work that you do. The next one is from Allison Mentz from the Lookout Mountain area. Dear WSD board, here we are at the start of another COVID year, and the stress and panic, it is all consuming. With the Delta virus so transmittable, the kids who are unvaccinated are at tremendous risk for getting COVID. I kept my daughter online all last year and was hoping to send her back safely this year. Unfortunately, with masks being optional and this variant being so transmittable, I feel like I am sending her to school in an unsafe environment. I want her back in school in person, but I am considering other options. I know Governor Ducey has significantly tied your hands, but I implore you to follow the CDC guidelines and the recommendations of the Arizona Department of Health Services and begin this school year with masks required. If everyone is masked, then the ability to stop the variant from spreading like wildfires, and we can keep our kids safe at school. If we let this variant rip through the schools, I fear we'll be back online. I know this is an emotional issue for everyone, but we are seeing kids getting sick and struggling with COVID symptoms and some dying. Chandler Unified started 2 weeks ago and has over 140 cases. Hamilton High School has 38 cases. Hospitals are filling up. Let's prevent them from filling up with our kids. Let's wear masks until we can get these kids vaccinated and until the COVID numbers drop significantly. The next one is from Carissa Enos. Good afternoon. I am calling on WSD to follow the Roosevelt, Osborne, Phoenix Union, and Phoenix Elementary School districts and requiring face masks for all students and staff. As of now, Arizona is number 2 in the nation for child deaths caused by COVID-19. Vaccines do work. However, they are part of a multi-level proven mitigation strategy against COVID-19. Most children in this district are not eligible for vaccination. With the Delta variant being most transmittable, we will quickly see irreversible damage caused by a lack of protection within the schools. Employees who are in immune compromise will be in grave danger, even if they are vaccinated. As a school district, you have an obligation to protect the children who attend as well as your employees. Wearing masks is the easiest way to protect those in your district. The decisions made within the district not only affect those who attend, but they affect the entire community. We cannot rely on personal responsibility during an uncontrolled global health crisis in which our most vulnerable populations are not even eligible for vaccination. I encourage you to do the right thing and require masks in schools and classrooms. This simple change will save lives within the district and the community. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Aaron Sweeten from the Swirl Choya Middle School area. Please consider a mask mandate with COVID transmission is so while COVID transmission is so severe, as other school districts are doing. I want to send my children to safe schools, which I know everyone present is making a good faith effort to prevent the spread of COVID, according to the guidelines provided by the Department of Health. I also want my children's friends and former classmates with asthma and other risk factors for severe respiratory illness to be able to safely and fully access in-person education as required by law. Let's not consign these children to suboptimal education because they are vulnerable. Thank you for the time. The next one is from Miss Karen Huntenmeyer. My name is Karen, and she lives within the Lookout Mountain Sky area. My name is Karen Huntenmeyer, and I live within the WSD boundaries. Although my children are no longer students within WSD, I feel it is important that the governing board mandate mask usage for all children and unvaccinated teachers and staff. I know the facts. The virus is mutating. The number of cases in Arizona are rising, which coincides with the start of school in other areas of the valley. Community transmission within our own district is already in the red zone, and we haven't even opened our schools yet. Children under 12 are not yet eligible to receive the vaccine. Many children over 12 and many adults have chosen not to get vaccinated. This is their choice, but that choice puts others at risk and allows the virus to mutate. Although most children do not get a severe case of COVID, there is a high likelihood that they will pass along to others who are unable or choose not to get vaccinated. No one wants to be told to wear a mask, but we know that masks reduce the transmission of the virus. This is the third school year where COVID is affecting our students and staff and teachers. Online school was difficult for so many of our children. We need a safe way to allow them to attend in-person class and not run the risk of them getting sick and or getting those in the community sick. This is a public health issue, and I believe the safest way to move forward is to follow the recommendations of the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and our public health departments. Please mandate mask usage until our numbers are down and the risk of additional variants decreases. Thank you for taking the time to discuss this important issue before sending our kids back to the classrooms. Excuse me. The next one is from Aileen Fullerton. She is from the Moon Valley area. Dear board member, Superintendent Dr. Stanton, I would like to voice my support for reinstating the mask mandate. We are a public school. We should, in all good faith, follow public health policy and the CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, and numerous other credible health institutions have advised. We are obligated to keep children safe at all times while on our campuses. This should not become a political issue. This is a medical issue that has been proven scientifically to work. In my experience as a special education teacher working in this district, children listen to adults, watch adults, and have been taught to follow the rules. These children will and can handle this mandate. We need to lead by example. We can survive this mandate. Remember, childhood is a very short period of a person's life. Adulthood lasts 50 to 60 years. Let's help these children reach adulthood by reinstating face mask mandate for the time being, and let us come together as one team and keep everyone safe on our campuses. Thank you. Next, from Kimberly Naletti from the Ironwood Swirl Desert Foothills area. I am not happy about sending my unvaccinated child to school in an environment that does not follow CDC guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19. I would support WSD in following the CDC guidelines for schools. Thank you. The next one is from Amanda Davis, employee. Dear Washington Elementary School Board, I want to begin by stating that these comments do not come from me alone. They are from many others whom I speak. We first would like to ask you a question. If you're willing to violate this law, what else are you willing to do? Will it end at mask mandates, or will you enforce vaccine mandates? Will it end at vaccine mandates, or will you refuse employment or penalize in other ways for non-compliance? I have spoken to many others about this issue, and when they ask about whether or not they will be forced to wear a face mask covering, once again, their eyes fill with fear and sadness, as do mine. The science does not show that a face covering makes any significant impact on the ability of this virus to spread. However, the science does show the psychological and physiological ramifications. This applies to all ages and affiliations. We claim to want to support our students and staff's social and emotional well-being. Wearing a face covering does the exact opposite. Being able to emotionally support our children has everything to do with being able to see their faces, their whole face, and being able to interact with them freely. I know from personal experience, I've had 3 friends commit suicide in my 7th and 8th grade school years. The signs were telling, and most of them from their expressions. You are inviting social, emotional, and psychological harm on everyone. If you wish to impose such doctrine, then I challenge you to do so on a scientific basis. Below is an excerpt from the scientific study on prolonged mask wearing. I'll forward the scientific study to the board members. She refers that this excerpt commendably begins to share the detrimental effects of prolonged mask wearing, not to mention the psychological effects such as chronic stress, condition, fear, mood disturbances. Now is that something you are willing to impose on our students, especially when in the ages 10 to 14, students are most vulnerable to suicide, as detailed in the Arizona Department of Health Services documented in their Suicide Report 2020. Children under the age of 15 have a 3.4-fold increase in suicide rates. So I ask, is the mitigation more harmful than beneficial? The next one is from Jennifer Farrell, a Lookout Mountain parent. Dear members of the WSD School Board, first of all, I want to thank you so much for serving our kids and our community. I wanted to reach out to you prior to your special and executive board meeting today. I understand that several school districts in Maricopa County have voted to mandate masks being worn. It is my strong opinion that WSD continue. Oh, I just wanted to put that one. I apologize. The next one is from Erin McGore Fisher. I just want to start by saying that my children are so excited to go back to school, and so am I. With that being said, it is unconscionable that our public schools have been put in this position by the governor and Republican-led legislature. The law signed by the Governor Ducey in June was reckless and short-sighted. Following public health guidance should not be political. I want my kids in the classroom because that is where the best learning happens. And until we are fully on the other side of this pandemic, we must take the necessary precautions. I beg you to make this mandatory for everyone this school year until the kids have a chance to get vaccinated. We need to protect our children and our future leaders. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Laura Baker from the Acacia Elementary area. I would like to express my opinion on requiring students and staff to wear masks again in schools. I do not think we should be here right now. I thought when the vaccines were rolled out, my family and most of American families would be able to pick up their life again and move forward. I thought my kids would be able to start a new school year in a safe environment. My kids were virtual students from August to March. Although they did the best they could, their teachers were so amazing. It was the most challenging years of their lives, and it definitely affected their mental health as well as mine. I want my kids to be in school. They should be able to be in school. The solution was and is in vaccinations. However, my children are too young for it and rely on other adults. Sadly, too many are choosing not to get vaccinated, and here we are now. The best thing is to reinstate a seemingly simple temporary solution, and that is to require masks in indoor situations. Is that idea? Gosh, no, I wish I could take away the entire pandemic from my kids' lives, but really, what is the alternative? Our responsibility as a community is to be part of the solution and to do everything we can to control COVID-19. Our kids deserve that, and I'm so proud for WSD to make the right decisions through this. I'm so proud that WSD has made the right decisions throughout this pandemic. Please consider doing the right thing and require masks in WSD schools. Thank you. The next one is from Jason Hopkins. I would like to address the board about the special meeting called regarding compliance to ARS 15342, prohibiting face coverings. I have 3 children who attend Lookout Mountain. I would like to say that my family is against trying to require children to wear face masks in schools. An environment where children are compelled to wear face coverings will have an overall disruptive impact on their ability to learn for various reasons. Wearing face coverings will make it difficult for teachers to effectively communicate with students. Students who are located further away from where the teacher is speaking will not only have a harder time hearing, but also lose the benefit of seeing the teacher articulate and form their words. Likewise, it will be difficult for students to answer questions and verbalize their responses. Children will be distracted throughout the day as they try to keep their face coverings in place, and disruptions will occur as teachers have to remind students to wear their face coverings correctly. As parents, we all want our children to be provided with a safe and quality education. In-person learning is the best option to achieve this. Face coverings are a less than adequate safeguard, and other means of and other means such as frequent hand washing, distancing would prove more effective and less intrusive and achieve that result. The next one is from Stephanie and Ryan O'Connor. Good morning. They are from the Lookout Mountain. I just saw that WESD will be holding a special board meeting regarding masks and wanted to submit comments. We have an incoming kindergartner and second grader at Lookout Mountain Elementary and very concerned about the lack of mask mandate in WESD. In light of several districts, Phoenix Union, Phoenix L, Roosevelt, Osborne, decision to enforce mask mandate at all of their schools, will WSD consider to do the same? According to a recent article, it appears that Governor Ducey's penalties to districts regarding masks don't actually go into effect until the end of September. Will WSD consider enforcing a mask mandate until then at least? It is concerning that the two mitigation strategies proven to help curb the spread of COVID-19, masking and vaccines, are unavailable to elementary school age students. We understand and agree that in-person learning is essential for these kids, but with such high transmission in the area, requiring masks, even if it's only until the end of September, will ensure us to be in person safely. Thank you for your time and consideration. This one is from Chelsea and JW Gabardale. Thank you for convening to consider the district's options to protect students in light of ARS 15342. As parents of a kindergarten student in at Lookout Mountain Elementary, we are eager to see WSD do all that it can to protect our daughter and all children who want to come in person and learn in a safe, inclusive environment. The evidence is clear that that short of a vaccine, the most effective way to protect against the transmission of COVID-19 is to wear masks. The CDC credits masking in schools during the last school year as a primary reason for the relatively low transmission of the virus within the school environment. Furthermore, we are learning more and more each day on how the Delta variant causes adults who are vaccinated to still transmit the virus. Our children don't yet have access to the vaccine, and yet so many desperately need to come to a safe school environment to learn. If reason prevails, we should require universal masking in our schools. There are so many families like ours in this district with children and adults who are immune compromised, or for some other reason are especially vulnerable to the risk of this virus. For our part, we are pregnant and will have a new infant in our family next month. We will not feel safe sending our daughter into a kindergarten where masking is optional. We will be sad if we cannot start her with her peers at Lookout Mountain, but being asked to choose between going to school and risking infection or staying home and missing school in order to stay safe seems fundamentally contrary to the mission of public education. We respectfully urge you to require that all people in WSD schools to wear masks at all times, consistent with the WSD values of equity in education and preserving the health, safety, and welfare of our students, parents, community, and staff. Thank you. President Adams, that was the last one.
Thank you, Mrs. Tucker. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who sent in those comments for public participation, and also the many letters that we received regarding this issue. I want to assure everybody that's listening that this board does not have any agenda. As a matter of fact, we have board members here that have children in our district. This board and also our administrators and everybody involved with the district, our children, our staff, and the community's health and safety do come first. So again, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to participate in public participation. With that being said, may I please have a motion to call for executive session, please?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, with that, we are going to go ahead and exit, and we'll meet up back in executive session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Hello, Steve. I scared you.
Yeah, you're in cartoon land, I see.
We're still live, guys, just to let you
We
know.
are live. Mr. Adams, let me know when you want to start. We're all back.
Thank you. Dr. Stan, do we need to mention the bill? Dr. Stan, are you on?
I am, Mr. Adams.
Should I just start off with the agenda item as read, as presented?
Yeah, we need to reconvene the special meeting and then we can.
Right, I'm just asking a question, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, if everybody's ready, Ms. Tucker, I'm going to go ahead and reconvene our special meeting. It is currently 2:27. And with that, we're going to move to action discussion item 5, which is discussion consideration, if deemed advisable, possible action regarding amending the district's safe return to learn plan for 2021 through 2022. And the floor is open, so any board members wish to comment?
I'll go. I was waiting to see if anybody else wanted to go first, but I will go.
Mrs. Whaley, please.
Thank you, President Adams. So as we all know, there's been a lot of conversation lately around the return and reopening plans, some of our neighboring districts' decisions to require masks either with or without an opt-out option for folks, and all the while being held to some legal restrictions as well. So of course, we've been working to work with our legal counsel to try to find a way that would help us meet our obligations as best as possible, which is to, of course, uphold law, but also to take care of the health and safety of our students, staff, and community. And so as we go into making these decisions, I think we're all going to get a chance to kind of share where we're at and what our thinking is before we, make any motions. And so this is kind of where I'm at. And I recognize that this is a divided issue in our community. I realize that people feel passionately on both sides, and that no matter what happens, there's going to be people that are unhappy. And all we can do is do the best of our ability to try to do what we think is right. I'll start with, I know there's been a lot of debate about science and what science to follow. So I will say that I get my information from the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Maricopa County Department of Health, Arizona Department of Health Services. I also rely on clinically and medically peer-reviewed journals and websites with medical universities. So Johns Hopkins, Yale, Cleveland. So all of these are evidence-based. That's where I'm getting my information. And from the information that I glean, these are the things that I know. First of all, I know that this particular Delta variant is more contagious and spreading quicker than the previous COVID one. That's according to all of those different resources. that we do know that this one is spreading quicker. They equate it to, CDC equates it to the chicken pox. It's just spreading longer, wider, and faster. I know that's what I know from the science. I also know that masks are one of the top mitigation strategies that all of the medical professionals and organizations are saying to help reduce the spread of COVID and its variants, and vaccines. So those are the top two things that we know. More than hand washing, more than anything else, it's those two things. Those are the ones that they recommend the most. Currently, CDC, American Pediatrics, Maricopa, Arizona Department of Health, everyone is saying vaccinated, unvaccinated, everybody wear a mask, because we do know that people are getting this variant even if they've been vaccinated. I also know that students are less likely to have severe outcomes based on COVID-19. However, we have seen episodes across the country where kids are hospitalized with this. Not as likely, but it's happening. We know that our kids under 12 right now don't have the access to vaccines, and we know that people with vaccines are doing better than those without. The majority of deaths in this country right now are from unvaccinated people. I also know that currently, according to Maricopa County, less than 50% of our population is fully vaccinated, and less than 40% of our 12-year-olds and above are vaccinated. So that tells me that at least half of our community and our schools and our staff and our students are not vaccinated, which puts them at risk. I know that mask wearing is not comfortable. I've worn one for long periods of time. And it is hot and sweaty, but I also know my mom is an ER nurse, and the medical providers wear them all day long. Doctors' offices, the medical staff wear them all day long. So while uncomfortable, there's no risk. In fact, those same organizations, including the American Lung Association, has said that there's no risk of any kind of harm. Now, of course, there's individual things, but from what I've seen from the research, you're not going to die of carbon dioxide poisoning, and you're not going to get mold and get infections unless you're not washing your mask and changing it regularly. So I say all of this to say is this is what I have. This is the information that I have. I am a parent of a child who is not yet able to be vaccinated. I understand that most people feel like masking should be a choice, but what we also know is just because I wear a mask doesn't mean I'm not at risk anymore, because each person wearing a mask reduces the risk. If I wear a mask, but everybody else around me doesn't wear a mask, I am not immune. I am not protected at the level I would if everybody was wearing a mask. And so while it's a choice, I think, and some people think it's a choice, I see it very much like smoking or something else. If I choose not to smoke, but everybody around me is smoking, I'm still at risk. And so for me, I find it that it is our obligation to put our students' health and safety first. I do not want to see a closure. I know a lot of people are saying other districts are going mask-free without any issues, and that's not true. I've been in contact with them. We've seen the numbers. We've seen individual classes, whole campuses, whole districts up in Ash Fork close within a week of opening schools because of no masks. So for me, this is a matter of how do we do both? How do we give people in-person education and try to keep them as safe as possible? I don't want us to have to go to 100% virtual in 2, 3, 4 months because we have mass outbreaks. I want to keep our kids in school. I also want families to feel secure when they're there. So for me, those are the things that are contributing to my decision making. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that Barty? You're up, Jenny?
Yes, thank you, President Adams. I do echo Ms. Whaley's beliefs on, not just beliefs, but where she gets her scientific data from. I too look at those trusted resources. I also am a long COVID survivor, and this is something I would wish on no one to live with this for the last 9 months. And recently I was holding my great nephew, and as an infant, I realized his total and complete vulnerability and need for protection, for somebody to protect him. Up to that point, I do believe that The scientific data is very clear on what we can do, and I do know that people have a choice to be vaccinated or not. However, there are we are entrusted with caring for kids who cannot be vaccinated, and given that that is our responsibility, I do believe that keeping the schools open is #1 priority. Doing it in a safe manner can be in addition to that. It doesn't need to be one or the other. I'm in pharmaceutical sales, so I'm in and out of doctors' offices all day long, wear my mask when it's 120 degrees out. And it's not the best thing in the world, but if the doctor's offices for which we take our children to go to recommend that we wear a mask or we don't get seen by the provider, it's not even a recommendation, you just don't get in if you don't wear your mask, then there is some scientific information there that we should really pay attention to. I agree with Ms. Whaley on that we proceed in this way after we had our executive session as well, that it's important that we have this dialogue and this discussion. I do think we need to keep the kids safe and keep the schools open, and I do know that there's probably another option out there that we could go with. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson, you're up.
Thank you, President Adams. So I also have some pretty strong beliefs about education. Primarily, first, our kids need to be in schools. The safest place for our kids should be schools. And I am so excited to have our schools open to our families and to our kids. So I want to keep them that way. But I also understand that one of the things that students, anyone needs to be able to learn, children and adults alike, is to be able to feel safe. That's one of those basic needs that we need to have. And the safest way, according to all the science, that, you know, I am not a person who spends all of my time doing this research and learning about it. I rely on those who have that education and that knowledge and experience to do it. And so when the people with that education, knowledge, and experience are telling us that masks are one of the strongest ways to mitigate against COVID, I have to believe that that's accurate and true. And so I feel like the safest way to get our kids in schools where they can stay is to keep them masked up as much as possible. You know, I keep hearing people say our schools were open safely last year and we didn't have a spread and it's not an issue. Our kids were fully masked last year, and there were still cases, and the variant wasn't as contagious. And so it's very difficult for me to accept the idea that we're going to say it worked last year, so let's not do it this year and keep hoping it works. I'm having a hard time with that. I would also just add that I have, you know, children who will be affected if the district decides to move to a mask mandate. I have 3 kids in Washington L schools and 2 in other places, and so I have a child with level 3 autism and severe sensory issues who wore a mask to school every single day last year, and who went to school every single day last year in a mask. I have a kindergartner who wore a mask to school every day, and we started talking about going back to school, and she said, "I don't mind wearing a mask, Mom, it's no big deal." When I started talking to her about it, thinking, oh, I'm really gonna have to, you know, talk to her about this. So I think we need to give kids more credit for their ability to do what's going to keep them safe. And I think we also need to, as Jenny spoke about, Ms. Abbott already spoke about, take our responsibility to care for the students in our purview seriously and protect them for as much as we can. And we also know that masks protect each other. So if my kids are wearing masks, there's a level of protection, but if they're the only kids in their class that are, I'm taking away those levels of protection that I could be offering to students who need that protection. So I recognize this is an impossible issue, and I understand that there is many factors here, and it's not something I take lightly. It's not a responsibility that I take lightly to have a voice in this, but I think I have to raise my voice for our kids and for their safety. Thank you.
Thank you. In all the years I've been on the board, I've never had to experience, well, we all haven't through the last year and a half, and we all have people that we've either lost or been sick. I'm very proud of my fellow board members. They're so articulate in there. They really express what I believe, where we are all on the same page in regards to the safety of our children, our students, and our staff. The fact that our children are being used as political pawns just tears my heart out. And I'm in the political world, and I'm just so disappointed with where we are all landing and having to make these decisions right now. We should be focused on the children and making sure that and which we are, they're all being taught. I believe that our teachers and staff, our administration, they're heroes. They go in every day and they have to face these difficulties. They have their families. It's just mind-blowing. The factors that are before us today are that there is a law in place, and the law states that effective September 30th, I believe, masks cannot be mandated. We have a sister district that went out and made the decision to mandate masking. And today they are not breaking a law. And forgive me, this is my interpretation, but that law also had a clause in it that stated that it can be retroactive all the way back to the 30th when session closed, when they sine died. So what that means is if we decide to mandate masking, we can theoretically while we're not breaking the law today, come September 30th, we will have been seen as breaking the law. Right now we have the option, well, not the option, but our position is that we strongly recommend masking. And we've done a good job with it in the past, and school's about to begin. The emails that we receive, the phone calls that we receive, the people that we meet in the public, this is split right down the middle. And it's very, very passionate. I could show you God, I wish I could share the emails with you. You've got one side saying, you better be masking up for the safety of for myself and my family and our teachers and everybody else. And the other side saying, don't you dare mask up. It's illegal and I have my rights. So we as a board, where do we land with this? And you can tell by, and I'm talking to the public, then you can tell by the statements that are made that masks are important to all of us, including myself. But where do we land where we're not breaking the law? We're not putting the district in jeopardy, and we're not putting ourselves as board members in legal jeopardy also, which when it comes to the safety of our children, I think we all agree that we're all there we'll all step forward and do what we need to do. But as we go forward with this and we talk about it, right now there's one of the options that we have, and I believe I can talk about it. One of the options that we have is that we're thinking about mandating masks with an opt-out, where either the staff or the families, the parents, decide to opt out, and they sign a piece of paper. Then you get into, which we all believe with the legal counsel that we can do this legally. We can do this. It's a message to the community by saying, and forgive me, I'm getting my my electrical cord. We can do this, and it's a message to the community that, hey, we believe that you need to mask up. On the other hand, it can be an administrator. It can be very difficult on the administration, and parents. I mean, anybody could just walk in and say, "Hey, I don't want to mask up if I don't have to." So it's a difficult position, and I don't believe that mandating masking is an option for us. But I'm going to take a breath because, like I said, this is very, very heavy, I think, on all of our hearts. And I'll let my fellow board members chime in. So anybody else have anything? And please just chime in while I find someplace to plug in.
I'll jump in there. I know one of the options. So there's a few options that are on the table. The first is to do the status quo, and we just, say we strongly recommend. We put a couple signs up on buildings, and hope people do their best. What I've seen across other campuses and what I'm hearing from people is that we're not seeing a lot of masking on those campuses. On ours, and then also on sister districts, like once their school actually started. So there's a risk there, and some information about while I'm vaccinated, should I need to wear it? Well, CDC is saying, yes, you should. But that is an option to just keep it status quo as what we had before, right? Another option is to go by the way of Phoenix Union, which is saying we're requiring it, no exceptions. And that one has been advised that that's legally inadvisable for the reasons that Mr. Adams stated, which is that as of September 30th, we would be in violation of the law. And while there's no set punishment for that, they could come back to us and say, well, for the period, even if we stopped on September 29th, they could come back to us for the period between now and that time. And then the third option, which is what many of the Phoenix L, Osborne, Balts, lots of other districts are starting to do, is to look at an opt-out option where it is required. But if you feel very strongly that you do not want to wear a mask as a staff person or as a parent of a child, you come to the district, you fill out a form, and that form is registered with the campus, and the campus will know that your child's not required. Or that you as a staff person's not required. But I think that does a stronger message of saying, when we strongly encourage, and we want people to think about it before they choose. So those are kind of the three options on that, as I understand it. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, because we're also looking at the mitigation plan in its entirety, and I think that we were clear in the mitigation, but maybe we could be clear that if somebody gets contacted with COVID, comes in contact with COVID, that they would be quarantined. I believe ours is regardless of vaccination status, but I think that is up for the conversation too. I think that was advisable that everybody that is in contact regardless of vaccination status be quarantined. That's part of our mitigation, as well as I think our plan for how we're going to communicate that out. I know that we had a plan last year, but I think there's some information that needs to be reiterated to our community and to our staff regarding that process. And then finally, the thing that I wanted to, that was not part of our current plan, that was part of our plan last year, is the temperature checks at the beginning of the school year. If people are sick, we should be able to find out as soon as possible, and get those kids back home and safe, and follow our protocols for that. And this current plan just doesn't do that. And I believe that extra step is, again, another mitigation strategy that was effective for us last year. So again, just more thinking on that. I'll leave it to my other board members if they have any other comments on it.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Lindsay? You're good? Jenny, nothing?
Oh, thank you.
Good, thank you. I'll have closing statements in a second before we decide to move on. Dr. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Adams, members of the board, members of the audience, just on the Ms. Whaley's temperature checks, the CDC had started with that back many months, maybe a year ago now. And then they actually suggested that was no longer a strategy. That was part of why that was removed just to make everybody aware of that. That's why the temperature check. So we were asking families to do their stuff, and then of course our staff, if they see any symptoms, they would send them up to the health techs. But that's why the removal of that was there, just so everybody knows.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion on this or decide to table all of it to find out again what the community is going to do with other school districts legally, just want to make sure, forgive me, I want to make sure I'm clear because I had a little bit of a problem with my computer. The three solutions, one is again status quo, where we continue just to recommend strongly that individuals wear their masks. And the other one in regards to where we mandate with an opt-out, I believe we're based on legal counsel that we're in a good position to move forward with that. Again, it would be a bit of an administrative hassle in regards to how we get individuals to secure the form itself, or what happens if a child decides not to mask up, or a parent decides, tells a child they don't have to. So there's still a lot of questions. And maybe there's more dialogue that needs to be done before we move forward with that option. And that's probably where I stand. And if no one else has anything else to add, we can make a motion, or we can table this for another day. We've got another meeting coming up in 2 weeks. With that, I will ask the board for what they wish to do.
Mr. Adams, I'd like to make a motion. I would like
Go
us to
go ahead and make that motion, Mrs. Whaley.
Thank you, President Adams. I would like to make the motion that we modify our reopening plan to include the provision that masks be required on our campuses for both students and staff, with the option to opt out, and that opt out option be made available to those that present in person to sign a form to that effect. I further motion that we continue and make it explicit that we will follow quarantining mandates for anyone who is identified as being exposed to COVID-19, regardless of vaccination status.
I second.
Is there a discussion? Okay, would you consider a friendly amendment? Would you consider an amendment, please? And that would be to not, I want to be able to have access, that anyone who asks for that, let me get some clarity, please. So if somebody decides to opt out, we will be sure to get them that form any way they wish, but you wish them to physically bring it to the campus.
The motion is, yeah, the motion is to present in person, and my rationale for that is because we have a lot of families with parenting rights, and I don't want to make it so that people are making decisions that they're not legally able to, or that they're just downloading and submitting it. I think it's important that we see that it is the person, the guardian or caregiver, who is making that decision. And so I think that it's important that they present identification and any court documents necessary to make that decision.
Would you consider pulling that, amending it so that piece is not in there?
No, I would like to keep my motion as presented.
All right, any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? Well, let's take a roll call. Roll call, please. Vote.
Thank you, President Adams. I have a motion on the table that was seconded by Ms. Abbott, so I'll just start. Ms. Abbott, how would you like to vote?
I vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
In favor of the motion.
Ms. Whaley,
In favor of the motion.
Mr. Adams,
I'd like to explain my vote. While I am in favor of this motion, unfortunately, I have to vote no because of the language requiring there are circumstances where our parents, should they decide to opt out, or our staff, well, our staff is going to come to work anyways, but there are circumstances where individuals can't physically bring that in and bring that form in. Again, I do believe in this direction, and I wish we could have more time to talk about it. But with the language, the way it's stated, I'm afraid I have to vote no.
okay, with the motion passes 3-1.
Okay. So with that, we are done. And so may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 2:56. Thank you, board. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Be safe.
Stay safe. Yep.